So, today we're going to talk about a hot subject. You see, I got my chili peppers out, and that hot subject is going to be pricing. So, how does that work? I want to give you a general overview and a few details about the pricing of ingredients for you to understand a little bit what certain quality criteria should be, and also to poke once in a while. When you hear a big marketing talk, you have to poke and ask some precise questions to check what's inside those bottles and to check where the dollars are going. If the dollars are going to the creators, like in music, and if the dollars are going to the farmers, like in cooking and cuisine. So when you get a candle or when you get a fine fragrance, so when you buy a fine fragrance in a bottle or even a candle, for instance here, this is a keep candle or any fragrance you see that you have in the store. I love those chili peppers, they're fabulous. You get, what you create is a concentrate, what we call the concentrate, which is the formula I've published in the real deal in this Patreon. I published the formulas of sailors. If you weigh this, you get the concentrate. That concentrate is then diluted in alcohol because it's too concentrate for skin. It's very oily. It's like bleh. So you put that in alcohol, the best solvent we have. It doesn't smell. Alcohol evaporates within 20 seconds, has no smell, and disappears in the air. And alcohol dissolves very well. Molecules and lavender oil. Try to put lavender oil in water, you get a vinaigrette, like a salad dressing, you know, it's like quite disgusting. And then it wouldn't spray like a fine mist. So if it's in a candle, you take the concentrate and you dilute it in the wax. So what happens? This concentrate is where the big value is. So alcohol is very cheap. It's about $3 a kilo, or let's say it's like $1 to $2 a pound. And I'm not sure about the price of wax, but wax is also very cheap. So this is not where you have a lot of the money for the raw ingredients. So what you should know, let's start now from the other side. When you buy this bottle in the store for $100, when you buy an Armani bottle in the store for about $60, so about half goes to the store. So if you buy it at a niche perfumery, half goes to the niche perfumery. And usually in a niche perfumery, you have someone knowledgeable giving you information. They know you, they give you a sample. I don't like the term sample, but they give you a little extract or a little mini from another fragrance you might like. They just put some stuff. I hate it if I go to a real, not a real, it's actually a fake perfumery like Sephora. It's just a zoo. And a circus, I should say, and then they put in their samples, I don't know for what, but things I don't like, I know, and when I ask them, no, but can I have something I like, it's like a whole story. Bon. So if you go to a small perfumery, and a small perfumery, they spend time on training their people. Usually when you go to a small perfumery, they know more about ingredients, you can have some very precise questions. At times they even know the perfumers, like you go to a music store when we used to have them, and they know the musicians and they can tell you some stories, etc. So usually you get that service or that knowledge, that expertise. Most of the salespeople in a small perfumery stores, they've been to at least the Bergamot fields somewhere, or the Patchouli fields, or you know, or they know someone very closely that went there, or they went to Grasse and visited the factories. But usually they have quite an education by the store for themselves, like passionate people. It's not true of all small stores, but there is another level of discussion. They also don't hesitate. Try to go to Sephora, try to go to Macy's, ask the salesperson for a specific question. They're going to jump through loops. Then they're going to try to sell you a fragrance from a large brand because they get a better commission. And also they say, you know what? Let me ask this question to the perfumer at Armani. Well, there's no perfumer at Armani anyway, but let me ask a question. Poor Armani is going to hate me, but I'll just take an example. It could be Diesel, it could be Jimmy Choo. And never they say, let me ask Jimmy Choo and I'll get back to you, etc. A small store would do that. So the big store, they get that margin, half the bottle. You should know also that the staff is not trained at all. And the brands have to build, you know, when you go to Chanel, Dior, they have internal perfumers. So, but I'm just saying, all these stands you see in a big perfumery when you arrive at Harrods, at Le Printemps, these are paid most of the time by the brands. Bon, Le Printemps, I don't know, but Harrods and Macy's certainly. And the stand, the presentation, and either the brands have to provide the salespeople. You know, you cannot even find someone to say, where's the Tom Ford stand? No, you have to ask the first person here or the first person at Chanel, where's the Tom Ford stand? Well, I'm not sure. They know very well, but they wouldn't want to tell you. Where is the Kiehl's thing? Where is the Lancôme? Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know. Bon. So that's what you get. Basically, 50% goes for the store, and you don't get much out of that. Then then the rest. Then you have, I don't know, I suspect from readings, and truly I suspect, I've never seen contracts myself. Chandler published a real contract in his book, but I suspect between 8 and 15% goes to the celebrity. So he goes to Armani, Jimmy Choo, Coach, the handbag brand, they get 8 to 10% of your $100. Or you $60 or more. So there's not much left. Then half of the rest goes to the distributor. And half the distributor or all goes to the big, what I call packager, like L'Oréal and Interparfums and Coty. Now, those people who, the packagers, so the packagers are in charge of the name, the label, the bottle. They go around fragrance houses and their job is to find the next cool fragrance, but you see how creative it is, because half the time they take something that already exists, such as Mont Blanc is a copy of Fierce by Abercrombie, so they didn't look for much. They probably had 10 perfumers working on that, and I mean, no drama, just to make a copy that's diluted with Damascones or God knows what. Well, I know because I did the GC of it. So they look for a juice as cheap as possible, so you have big discussions. The juice has to be as cheap as possible to put in that bowl, diluted with alcohol. So the juices are bought for about $70 to $150. So companies like L'Oréal, Interparfums, Coty, they buy their juices for like $70, $100. And Estée Lauder, they respect their fragrances a little bit more, so they can go up to, like, say, 150. When Mugler used to belong to Clarins, they would go to €150 a kilo. And these are prices per kilo. So you divide by 2, and that's the price per pound. So let's say $35 to $70 per pound, or euros per pound for the oil. Which means if your fragrance is concentrated in a bottle, your fragrance, even if your fragrance is at 20% in alcohol, which is very concentrated, a lot of eau de toilette are like 10%, eau de parfum, some of them are at 15%, not 20. But I know some juices at Estée Lauder, they go over 20. They really respect their things. And I don't have any commercial agreement with them. I don't have any interest and any discussion with them at the moment to talk with them, but I'm just saying what I've noticed. So Estée Lauder respects perfumery much, much more than many, many, many luxury brands in Europe. So I know it sounds cool to say we are from Paris, but what's backstage is not cool. Second dose, so basically in your bottle, the concentrate is about $1 to $2 in that bottle. Niche brands are going to give you a bit more money, but a lot of niche brands are only like at $4. You know, some niche brands, they buy their oils for $200 a kilo, and they don't buy tons, so they don't have the volume, the benefit of larger volumes. In that $1 of concentrate, in a perfume bottle, that pays $1 or $2. That pays for the perfumer, the creator. Can you imagine the music composer getting only 1% and the singer getting only 1% of the price of a song, 1%. So what I want to say here, so basically, wait, not the music composer, 1%, $1 in $100, that's 1% for the perfumer, the farmers, the chemist, the salesperson that works for the perfumer, that represents the perfumers, the so-called evaluator, I hate that term, but let's say the project managers that are in between, the sales assistant, that package everything, sends a sample to everybody, gets everybody yelling at them because it's not in FedEx yet and it's too slow and where is it and custom, that all in there. The shipping of all the ingredients from all around the world, 70 countries, to the France factory. They're always yelling, why it's not there yet? I have to wait, I have the press lounge. That's all in there, the shipping, the logistic. As I say again, the farmers, the safety, all the IFRA, all this is all in that ingredient. L'Oreal is not a member of IFRA. Coty is not a member of IFRA. Ralph Lauren, they don't even know what IFRA is. Diesel, they don't know what IFRA is. Jimmy Choo, they don't know what the Coach bags. I really don't understand all this. They're not members of IFRA. They don't pay for IFRA studies. They're going to tell you, oh yeah, we pay for them because they pay $1 in their bottle and it's included in there. They don't pay anything of R&D. All the French houses, in that $1, you have the research of new molecules, research of new plants, research of new extractions of new plants. I can go on and on. It's all in that $1 to $2 a bottle. Now, the other thing you have to know is, this you really can check on the internet. The pricing on the internet are not made up for you, even if you buy 15 milliliters. So of course, 15 milliliters, if you multiply, or 10 milliliters, if you multiply by the 100, that gives you the price per kilo, roughly. But if you buy a kilo, it's already cheaper. And if you buy 1 ton, it's even cheaper. But it's not half price, or maybe half price. But if you buy jasmine 10 milliliters from Enfleurage, if you calculate, it might be $20,000 a kilo, $10,000 a pound. If you buy tons of jasmine, it is still going to be, let's say, $3,000 to $6,000 a pound, $6,000 to $10,000 a kilo. And I don't want to even introduce the pricing before IFF Firmenich puts their margin on them, all fairness, and then it goes to L'Oreal. So, but whether we are $3,000 a pound or $6,000 a pound, we are in the thousands of dollars a pound. Which means if you put 1% of jasmine in your formula, if the jasmine is at $10,000 a kilo, 1%, so you divide by 100% is 10,000, 10% is 1,000, 1% is $100. So if you have 1% jasmine in your formula, that means your price per kilo of the concentrate is increased by $100. So if you buy your fragrance by $70, at $70, you have a little problem. You cannot have 1% of natural jasmine in your formula, okay? If you buy your fragrance at $70 a kilo, you cannot have 1% of jasmine in your formula. Then, when the brand does the whole marketing about the jasmine that they have in the formula, they don't have 1%. They might have 0.1%. They might have 0.02%, just to say it's there. Then when they talk about the jasmine from grass, and the jasmine from grass, the production is this much. And so it might be a tiny bit of jasmine from grass with a lot of jasmine from India. And they don't talk about the jasmine from India. There was a very classical example with mimosa from grass, which grows around grass. French mimosa, where it turns out it's a little bit of French mimosa and a lot of mimosa from India, which is cheaper, but also in terms of credit is not cool. It's cheaper, it's still expensive. Excuse me. Mimosa from India is not cheap. Jasmine from India is not cheap. We are also, mimosa, we are in the $1,000 to $2,000 a kilo, so $500 to $1,000 a pound. And jasmine from India is also, jasmine is mostly from India and then from Egypt, but the prices I've just said. Rose is more expensive than jasmine. Vanilla is more expensive than rose. Or as expensive or more expensive, depending vanilla, when, etc. So just to say, we are used, it's very common that prices of ingredients, some molecules, also in the $1,000 a pound, but a lot in the hundreds of dollars a pound. $1, $2, $3, $4, $500 a pound. So meaning 200, 400, blah, 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 $1,000 a kilo. This is common for molecules, okay? So that means all these terms about quality, I want you to know, when they say we use the best quality ingredients, yes, do you know the ingredients that are less than $70 a pound after, because this is when they buy it, after the margin of IFF and termination? Fair enough, they put their margins. I mean, frankly, at $40, $50 a pound or $100 a kilo, that's not a lot left for the perfumers and the chemists and everything. So they put their margin. Do you know what ingredients are less than that? I'm going to tell you. You have eucalyptol, so everything is medicinal. You have eugenol, clove, sun clove, because natural clove is more expensive. You have orange. So when you have a fragrance at some company, everybody knows, that are all about citrus notes, and then they sell you a bergamot that just smells of orange, I can tell you why. Bergamot is $200 a pound and orange is $5 a pound. Okay? Bergamot is much more difficult to use because as soon as you put patchouli and vanilla, the bergamot tea smell of bergamot disappears. It's still there, but bergamot does not have a strong character. Gets modified very, very easily by other ingredients. Orange, on the contrary, and then you put with a bit of molecule, aldehyde or whatever, it's easy to make an orangey fragrance, cheap and strong. It's also easy to make a rose fragrance very cheap, and that's fine. It smells very nice of a rose bouquet. Actually, rose oil does not smell of rose bouquet. But if you would know Rose Absolute, what it smells like, and I have to say, for instance, you see it in the Erin Lauder rose, you see the Rose Absolute effect of the rose. And so I think it's fair that they mention the Rose Absolute. But it's very rare to find a fragrance on the market that talks about rose and rose and rose. Coincidentally, you put phenylethyl alcohol, damascenone. Damascenone is expensive, but you just put a tiny bit, it's enough. You put citronelle oil, you put geraniol, it's easy to do a very nice rose bouquet, very cheap, and fair enough. But then don't talk about the Turkish rose that you went and visit, and you have 0.02% or even 0.1%. It's laughable to the chemist and laughable to the farmers. So you should know all this. And so what I'm saying is you have to poke when the brand goes on and on about the natural. You have to ask how much of it is in the formula. And then when they say, oh, it's secret, but that's not what makes the character. Yeah, that's true. But unfortunately, coincidentally, yes, you can be creative with benzyl acetate, but coincidentally, it's $5 a pound. And coincidentally, it smells strong and And coincidentally, I cannot smell the jasmine absolute in the formula because I know what it smells like and I don't see it. And you could remove it, no one would notice. Because jasmine absolute, unfortunately, you have to put quite a bit to start smelling it in a formula. These people don't tell you this, but try it and you will see yourself. You have to put, I would say, 0.1, 0.2, you start seeing it, but if you're serious, you have to go into the 0.4, 0.5, you're already quite expensive, already $30 of your formula. I have to tell you, and I'm doing publicity here, but it's fair enough. Keep came out with a jasmine candle, and 0.4, 0.5% of the formula is 30%. 0.4, 0.5% in weight of the concentrate is 30% of the price of the oil. The price of their oil is as expensive as the fine fragrance price given by the companies I mentioned that respect perfumery. In a candle, people would say, this is crazy. Well, no, because guess what? We claim the absolute jasmine. There is a significant amount, and we are helping the farmers modestly, but we are, and we are proud to say, in a candle, I just put enough, because candles are, you buy the candle for $50 and people complain, which is fine, but we put just enough to smell the jasmine absolute. If I make you a candle with and without, I have some here, but maybe one day I'll do that. It's tough to organize. I'm not here equipped to make 50 candles to ship to everybody. But maybe I'll organize that one day. But we can see without blushing, we can show anybody who wants to see that with and without jasmine, you can make the difference in the wax in the candle. So I just put enough because it gets very expensive right away. But In the fine fragrance, people don't even go that far. So we have to check. You have to ask. They have to tell you exactly the amount. When they go on and on about the jasmine from grass, you have to say how much there's in there. And when they sell millions of bottles, there's not enough jasmine produced in grass for all this anyway. So they have only tiny amounts. And so they should do the marketing also of the jasmine of India they use most of the time, because usually the Egypt is more expensive, or maybe they use some Egypt as well. And then they have to tell you how much for these ingredients that are key for the concept. And then on the other side of the story, I want now that people know very loudly that the way that celebrities sign perfume contracts with Coty, L'Oréal, and Interparfum, and a few others, and Parlux, they have no idea. But certainly they have to know now, whether they are fashion designers or singers, when they sign with a house that does not have a perfumer inside. So make a difference. Chanel has a perfumer inside, Dior has a perfumer inside. So I'm less familiar with this, and usually the perfumer is already kicking asses inside those companies. So, but when there is no perfumer inside, those celebrities should know that they are signing contracts that they would never, ever, ever sign themselves with music or with fashion. A singer or a music composer would never sign the kind of contracts that they are signing themselves with all these intermediaries. They don't even know, they don't even mention the perfumer in their contracts. So this has to be put out there, and they don't even put some clause to check or to prevent that farmers are exploited. All this has to be known now, because we have to perfumery has to be put back in the hand of the perfumers, of experts, of truth, of ethics. We've lost that since fashion. I don't know how it was before, but I know since fashion took over perfumery, it was very convenient for fashion to use perfumery as a cheap merchandise. It's very easy, $1 of fragrance in here, and then you resell for $100. Can you imagine how many people are eating on that table? So, and then it was very convenient for perfumers, because they work from 9 to 5. They do a fragrance, usually 10 to 6. They do a fragrance that fits in there. You use a lot of quantities for many, many years, unlike fashion, where it's just, you don't make millions of dresses. You have to create much, much more, and you have to revamp yourself every year or twice a year. So here, it's very comfortable. You sell everywhere in the world the same. You don't adapt. You go with that for 20, 50, 60 years, 100 years, to this day, Chanel No. 5, which is fine. This is totally fine. But now we have to check on what the marketing is. We have to check that the public knows what they're buying. We need to educate the public to recognize the thing. Can you imagine buying a soup of lobster? You don't taste the lobster. And they're trying to tell you there's a lot. And in there, it's mostly... let's say there you would mostly surimi from fake stuff, and then a tiny bit of lobster, not to lie on the label, and you don't see any pieces of lobster. Or you buy truffle, you don't see any pieces of truffle in your salad, and then they expect to know, but it's a conceptual truffle. Yeah, but the conceptual truffle, meaning the rose bouquet, by coincidence, is so cheap, and it's always the same that you have in all these duty-free fragrances. You would get it very fast, and then you say, okay, no, we know that crap out. Now you show me the real stuff, or I'm going to buy somewhere else where I know what I'm buying, and I can see it, because I'm not dreaming. Right now, the public does not know, so they believe. But we have to educate, and then we have to ask, I'm telling the journalists, every journalist now, every journalist talking to me, I say, now it's your mission as a journalist to ask what is inside the fragrance. And yes, they don't have to publish a formula, but they have to tell you. Now, two last things. I know it's a lot. So I told you those videos, I was scared I wouldn't have any ideas to talk for 5 seconds, for 5 minutes, but I guess. Those videos, watch them in bits by bits. Two things you should know. Why don't you see a gardenia on the market that smells really like a gardenia? You know gardenia. In America, it's a very American, South American plant. People here know very well gardenias. But if you're in France, if you're in Europe, if you're in Asia, everybody finds gardenias everywhere now. They smell lovely, creamy. It's a very typical smell. It's not jasmine, it's not tuberose. It's very simple. Why don't they have gardenia? They have tuberose, they all smell old and blah, 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 but they have tuberose as a concept because it's easy to do a cheap tuberose, the fake tuberose is easy. It's easy to do a very nice rose. It's easy to do a very nice jasmine, very cheap. But guess what? To do a very nice gardenia, you need one molecule, which is very expensive. So even, first there is gardenia extract natural from Colombia, for instance, and I think one from Vermont, of all places. There is gardenia extract, but it's expensive, but it's also, it smells gardenia, but in composition less, and the one from Colombia is very rich. The one in Vermont is very gardenia, but as I say, it's very weak. It would disappear very well. So the natural is not an answer, but it's very, very expensive anyway. Plus, turns out the key molecule in gardenia is very expensive, like $2,000, $3,000 a kilo, $1,000 a pound, So guess what? By coincidence, it gets too expensive if you want to buy your concentrate at $100 a kilo. The concentrate, meaning if you only put $1 to $2 in a bottle, then you're stuck. So I have to tell you, my niche fragrances, I don't want to talk with other people. I know some niche fragrances are very cheap because I know some perfumers, they also explain some things with niche brands and it's not cool, frankly. So let alone the niche brands that do copies of niche brands also. This is really crazy. Like you've seen, how many Sandal by Le Labo have you seen in other niche brands or in other, that's terrible. And it's not an expensive fragrance, but it's a nice fragrance. It's a really cool, I find it's very well made. And so it's one of those iconic things that happen to be not expensive to make, but is an iconic signature. So this is respectful. Like the price of the paint is not the price of the painting. Now, but that's not often, because now and then people are going to copy that. Now, the gardenia, if you buy the fragrance for this, now niche brands, as I say, niche brands, you have concentrates for $400, $800, $1,000 a kilo. So, but when you have 4% Narcissus at $20,000 a kilo, $10,000 a pound, please check online, you will see the price of Narcissus Absolute, then so if you have 4% of 10, that's already $120 just of Narcissus in that 4%. The second thing I want to mention, so even with niche brands, check, because some niche brands will explain to you it's impossible for them, and then they also have intermediates that they don't know how to filter. Then, the last thing I want to mention, people are going to say, I have a lot of oud, or a lot of Narcissus, or a lot of patchouli, patchouli is not so expensive, but it's already several $100s a kilo. Well, let's say $100 a pound, $200 a kilo, and up, etc. But even something like mandarin, mandarin is $200-300 a pound. So it's even like things you think is, it can be common in food. It doesn't mean in perfumery it's cheap. Rosemary oil is expensive. It's like $200 a pound. Rosemary oil, because you have to extract, purify. It cannot be medicinal. You want to keep the woody note. It's a whole thing. The last thing, if they mention so it's quantity, you have to ask if it's the pure ingredient, because some ingredients come at 10% from the factory, so they're going to tell you, but me, I have 1% jasmine. Well, but if it's not the case of jasmine, but let's say, I have 1% jasmine, but what they're not telling you is that the jasmine come at 10% already from the factory, so they actually have 1% of the jasmine they buy, which itself is already at 10%. So I'm talking here pure prices. So that's another one. So you see, it's a bit complex. Maybe some of you are lost already, but at least I hope you understand that you have to poke, you have to get the facts, you have to see if it's ethical, you have to see how much there is and what exactly, and especially when a lot of marketing is based off that. So when the marketing is based on the naturals and they don't want to tell, it's cheesy what there is in there. If the marketing is based on then the concept, we can do an abstract rose, that's true. But an abstract rose just based on PA and citronellol and damascenone, that's been done over and over again. It smells kind of like déjà vu. It smells cheap or like the duty free. And you're telling me, you don't have a lot of rose because you wanted an abstract rose, but it smells like common, and we know an abstract or reconstituted rose is cheap. Well, guess what? I'm not buying this. I'm not buying into this. So, voilà, this has to be known. Otherwise, we will never have the real quality coming out on the market. And so, education and you asking the right question. Voilà. Thank you.